Got some people here today. Right.
Someone says 5.
I'll wait. All right. Call the meeting to order. Tiffany, please take the roll.
Councilman Rodeo.
Present.
Councilman Whitlow. Present. Councilman McCarthy.
Present.
Councilman Sanders.
Present.
Mayor Sykes.
President, let the record reflect we do have a quorum for Tuesday, April 14th, 2026. We're going to run down to recognizing persons of the audience. Please limit comments to a maximum of 3 minutes. Would anybody like to come down and speak for 3 minutes? Come on down. First come, first serve.
Mayor, Council, Philip Mills, 2295 American Legion Boulevard for now. I wanted to talk a little bit about this ongoing frequency issue at the Mountain Home Airport. I've done a bunch of research on it. I was a former comm officer for Gowan Field for about 8 years, responsible for all things frequency at Gowan Field, including Western Area Defense Sector stuff as well. The statistics that I've run, I don't see a need to change this. Right now, 122.8 is the frequency of choice for safety for non-towered airports. That is a very standard frequency. By the way, I'm also a private pilot. There's not enough traffic in Mountain Home right now, and probably not for the foreseeable future, to warrant a frequency change off of 122.8. In order to get frequencies from other airports, because most of the other airports, Jerome, non-towered airports in the area, Glens Ferry, most of those are all on 122.8. You got 122.9 at Prairie, you got 122.9 at Pine. Those frequencies don't interrupt or don't interfere with 122.8 at all. The commuter traffic that passes through this corridor, in order to get frequencies from, let's call it Gooding area or Jerome area, you got to be around 6,000 to 8,000 feet, depending on where you're located, just because of the terrain. That frequency is a line of sight frequency, and so when aircraft are in the pattern at those airports, they're not interfering with this airport. Everything I've run, the questions I've gone through with the FAA on their data, all things come out to say that it is absolutely not needed right now. Probably won't be for the foreseeable future. If you do have a frequency change from 122.8 to another frequency, what those will actually do is create probably a short-term, maybe a little longer than short-term, safety hazard for the airport. Because most commuters running this area are going to be running 122.8. So it gives you awareness as to where everybody is. The average call There's approximately 5 to an airport. So reporting inbound, downwind, left base, right base, final. Most of those transmissions usually run about 4 to 7 seconds. That's kind of the average right now. We don't have enough airplanes to even cause overlap in most cases. If you get heavy traffic in the airport for an air show or something along that line, you're just offsetting it from 122.8 to the new frequency, so that's still going to be an issue at that time. So right now, I don't see a need to do this, and I, for the life of me, can't understand why we continue to have this down over 122.8. You got an airport manager that's required to deal with the safety part of this, and so, you know, if he doesn't feel that there's a need, probably not a need.
Thank you. Hello.
I am also wanting to discuss briefly
You state your name.
yes, my name is Ashley Evans. I would also like to discuss this ongoing frequency change and just something that I've noticed. It was brought up at the last meeting. So yes, I'm a pilot FY out of Mountain Home flight instruction as well, so I'm a CFI. What I noticed was that we had talked about, you know, the frequency being extremely congested, and one of the concerns that we had was if we did change this frequency, individuals would not be able to check NOTAMs, or not that they wouldn't be able to, but they just wouldn't. So something that I noticed, and I noticed it still, is that Mountain Home had a WAS on 1228, and that has been discontinued. Yet, people are still clicking 3 times 123, which is what we would do on 1228 to get the weather at Mountain Home. That is showing that they have not seen or looked at or know anything about this NOTAM. I see it here. A NOTAM is Notice to Airmen, for anyone who's not familiar. It was effective February 27th at 2 p.m. 2026. So when I hear people click 123, 123 during the daytime to get, and I say the daytime because you can click for lights at night. This is during the day. When I hear people doing that, which congests the frequency, that also tells me that those individuals have not read the NOTAM that has been up for months. So we now are implementing a frequency change. People aren't checking the NOTAMs. This is a fact, because if they were checking the NOTAMs, they would not continue to click. They're listening for weather. They're not getting it. That means they haven't read the NOTAMs. So now we change the frequency. A NOTAM goes up. And we're saying, hey, pilots, do your due diligence. That's great. But we can tell by listening to that frequency that they're not. That's what we've been saying. It's a safety hazard. So if anything, that weather, it would be nice to have that weather on a separate frequency to not congest 1228, put weather on a separate frequency, keeping people from clicking 3 times the weather broadcast, and we all have to stop, listen to it, and then we can resume making our radio calls. That is something that I did not hear at the last meeting, but something I noticed during this time. Thank you.
Next.
Sorry.
I'm James Newton.
Sorry, what was your name?
James Newton. Mayor Sykes and members of the City Council. The city's fiber utility was built on an opt-in LID model, meaning residents who opt in pay. That made this public utility completely dependent on strong resident participation to grow. When this first started, there was strong interest in the city's fiber plan because we had few internet options and we wanted faster, more reliable internet at competitive prices. Years of delay in building LID1, along with high opt-in construction costs, have damaged public confidence in the city's handling of this project. By the time LID2 sign-up begins, many residents have dropped out and moved on to wireless and satellite options. Mountain Home's Title 10 states that municipal fiber optic system is to foster competitive and encourage systematic development so availability is maximized for residents and businesses across the city. Title 10-1-4 states that the city shall have no obligation to provide access to any provider or subscriber. Private providers only offer service where fiber infrastructure already exists. So that leaves homeowners stuck between a city not expanding and private providers that can't freely step in to create real fiber build-out competition. Currently, LID1 and newer construction users are benefiting from the city's utility while the rest of us are left with no way forward. I heard that there was a possible fiber installation outside of LIDs with figures of $3,600 for a residential connection plus an additional $36 per foot beyond 100 feet from any fiber connection point. This may benefit residents along your main lines, but for others far from any fiber connections, it will cost thousands of dollars and not an option for majority of the people, especially those on fixed incomes. According to the current LID2 sign-up map, there's still interest from residents. The issue is the console's indefinite hold preventing future LID infrastructure from reaching them. If the city is serious about fiber as a public utility, it must demonstrate a clear and sustained commitment to this utility. The public's confidence will be regained through actions, not words. If we can't get fiber from the city, then who are we supposed to get it from?
Thanks, Shane.
Oh, no, sorry. Thank you.
Mayor, Council, my name is Mark Grubb. I'm a lifelong resident of Mountain Home.
So, gentlemen, are you going to tag team this in 3 minutes, or do you want 3 minutes, and then are you going to?
I don't believe I can say what I want to say in 3 minutes, so he may have to finish.
Okay,
Is that all right?
Or if you'll just bear with us and let him do it, we'd be happy.
I'll let you do the 3 because we got a lot of people in here.
Okay,
So you
all
do
right.
your 3, and you do
Okay.
your 3.
This is concerning the golf course. I don't feel that I speak on behalf of the golf community, but I do speak on behalf of the golf community. So we have prepared a letter and we'd like to read it to you. We as longtime residents and supporters of Desert Canyon Golf Course, formerly Mountain Home Municipal Golf Course. This facility is more than just a recreational amenity. It is a community asset built on decades of generosity, volunteerism, and local pride. The land for the course was donated for the express purpose of creating a public golf facility for the people of Mountain Home. Much of the course itself was constructed through volunteer labor, and the clubhouse and many improvements were funded by private donations. Those contributions are still recognized today on the donor board displayed in the clubhouse. This history matters. It reflects a shared investment by residents who believed in building something lasting for the entire community. Desert Canyon is not a private or exclusive club. It is a true municipal golf course open to anyone who wishes to play. Season pass holders are not receiving any special privileges. They are simply prepaying green fees. Tournaments and leagues do not exclude the public, and individuals who use the course are everyday residents, not a narrow or elite group. We also ask for perspective when discussing funding. The general fund transfer of approximately $311,000 seems reasonable, since no property taxes are used to support the course. At the same time, nearly every other recreational amenity in our city, parks, the library, swimming pool, tennis and pickleball courts, skate park, dog parks, and even the airport, receives significant taxpayer support and does not come close to covering its costs through user fees. In contrast, Desert Canyon generates a substantial portion of its own operating income through green fees, cart rentals, and passes. By comparison, it is far more self-supporting than any other city amenity. Singling it out for scrutiny each budget cycle creates an uneven standard and unnecessary division within the community. We are also concerned about proposals to significantly increase user fees. While this may appear to reduce reliance on public funds, the practical effort would be to price out many local residents and families. Doing so would undermine the very principle of maintaining a public course and shift it towards exclusivity, the opposite of its intended purpose. Looking ahead, we encourage the council to consider a return to a contracted PGA professional management model. This structure has historically provided strong operational leadership while aligning incentives for revenue growth, instruction, and customer experience. A qualified PGA professional with the ability to generate income through lessons, pro shop operations, and related services brings both expertise and accountability that can benefit the course long term. Finally, we ask for consistency in how Desert Canyon is viewed and supported. If subsidies are appropriate for other community amenities, and they clearly are, then the same standard should apply here. Rather than revisiting its funding as an exception each year, we encourage the council to recognize Desert Canyon as part of the broader parks and recreation system and budget accordingly. We also urge members of the council to take into account the history and community investment that built this course. Decisions made today will determine whether that legacy is preserved or lost. Our goal is not simply to defend the golf course, but to protect the community asset that has served Mountain Home for generations. With thoughtful management and fair treatment, Desert Canyon can continue to provide recreation, connection, and value for years to come. And we have several copies with many, many, many signatures.
Thank you.
If you'd like some blank copies, I'd be willing to give you some of those too.
Just give it to Tiff, and then she'll disseminate those out for the rest of the council. You don't need to write your name down. You guys are good. Okay,
We're good.
appreciate it. What was your name, sir?
Carrie Karloff.
No, just state your name.
No, just state your name for the record.
Carl Vaughn. I lived in Mountain Home 30 years.
I didn't even recognize you. Wow.
That's the point. This is about the golf course, and I apologize I didn't print it out to read it. I think having the city employees manage a golf course as they're responsible for the city. I couldn't find any public records anywhere that any city employee, if current, has ever operated a successful 10-year standalone business. The taxpayers of Mountain Home are going to be overwhelmed with the maintenance debt you're putting on them, with the new pool, the sewer expansion, the new splash pad, and the deferred maintenance of all the roads and infrastructure. Now you want $600,000 of the non-golfing taxpayers' money to fund it. I know firsthand that golfing is an expensive leisure, as I own a home in Arizona on not just one, but 4 championship golf courses. My annual fees are $5,000 a year for the privilege of playing golf. The city non-golf payer shouldn't be subsidizing less than 10% of the citizens who are golfers, so the city streets and infrastructures can suffer. The city council should contract lease the golf course to provide to a private company, so the success and failure of that golf course within our community is up to them and not the city council. Because if not, the golf course will bleed the city to death with salaries and benefits, which are part of the taxpayers' funding. But I come here with a proposal. If the mayor is such a savvy businessman that he proclaims to be, I think the city council should lease him the pro shop area for $1. Then let him get a HELOC, him or his supporters get a HELOC or a loan from the bank so they can run a business there and show his success. These city's amenities that I've listed above do not drive growth within our community. None of them. As the Reason Foundation president just published, government and city-owned golf courses are not real. They are real head scratchers. They serve no public interest that is not already served well by the private sector. Indeed, they are most often a nice subsidy for relatively wealthier golfers paid for by the non-golfing taxpayer.
All right. Okay. We're going to run down to one more. Oh, come on down.
Hello, my name is Rodeo. I live in Quince Ferry. Hello, Mayor, council members, and residents of Mountain Home. I wanted to come by and introduce myself. I'm running for Elmore County Commissioner. And just a little bit about myself. My background is in finance, budgeting, agriculture, and construction. I helped run a large electrical contracting company. We had over 100 employees. I did all the budgeting, financing, did take off so I can read plans, dealt with inspectors, dealt with other contractors. Myself and my husband, Johnny, Also started a electrical and general contracting company where I did the same sorts of things, budgeting, finance, human resources, accounts payable, receivable. Currently, I work at the Idaho Barley Commission, where I work with farmers across the state. I work with researchers. I work with state and local government. Myself and my husband have raised 5 children. They're all across the country now. Our youngest is at home. She's a junior. I will stand for questions. I will also stay so that everyone can have questions. I'll talk with anybody, and I'll also come back to the next meeting if anybody has any questions. Thank you.
All right. We'll run down the conflict of interest declaration. Has any councilman received any information pertaining to or otherwise had any contact with any person regarding any items on the city council agenda? If so, please set forth nature of contact. Hearing none, we'll move down. Councilwoman Workla.
Spoke with Rod Dudley regarding 18 and 19 under the consent agenda. Also Ted Thompson and Thomas Mahoney regarding number 1 under old business. No conflict.
Mayor.
Yes, sir. Sorry, Councilman.
I attended the INA conference yesterday where I had a discussion with Tom.
Mayor.
Councilman McCarthy.
I had a discussion with Ted Thompson regarding old business number 1.
Okay. All right, we're going to run down to presentation update from board members of the Mountain Home Irrigation District. Howdy.
How's it going?
Good.
I'm Eric Orr, Chairman of Mountain Home Irrigation District.
Rachel Summers, the Secretary, Admin.
So we're here today for another ask. We're going to have a short water year. Little Camas is already empty. They're out of storage up there, so it's running out of there, but it just made it flow. So we're anticipating starting work up there on the tunnels and the flumes again, probably in early June. So we've got an opportunity here to get a lot of work done, 2 or 3 months longer than usual. So we just received we got awarded another 50% grant from IDWR. And we put all the shareholders this year, again, paid an aging infrastructure extra assessment. So we're looking for funding to help our match on the 50% cost share grant. I've got copies of our what we accomplished in the fall of 25 and where we're headed. Things that still need to be fixed, and I'll leave them with you guys. I just have one copy of it. Okay. So anything that we could get to help with that cost share would be appreciated. The farmers are stressed. Commodity prices are bad. There's no water, and yet they're anteing up and doing everything they can to fund us and keep it going. And I don't know if you all are aware of the water problem, the declining aquifer, and the Mountain Home Irrigation System is the only source of recharge currently.
You guys crushed it. You guys did a lot of work last year, and I commend you guys for that. That was a heavy lift, and I'm proud to see you guys get that done. And we were at that board meeting with the Elmore County, and they were saying that they didn't have a way to antiquate how much was leaking, and you said it was 40%, right? Of what comes down there.
40%.
Yeah. So that's like I said, I commend you guys for prior predecessors that were up there. Put those in the tunnels, so those are definitely you got my support. So when do you need to have that answer by, or kind of give us a rundown of what does IDWR expect you to make that payment or try to fund that mechanism for that grant?
Yeah, so we'll start work in June, and we're going to need some sort of funding by late summer.
Councilman Brennan? Sorry, McCarthy?
Question, so is this on an ask of or additionally of the, I believe it was $200,000 that was given last year or the year before?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And the county, we've received funds from the county, the highway district, IDWR, and we're seeking funds from Elmore County Soil and Water.
We met with them today.
Councilwoman,
What's the number for the match that you're looking for?
Well, our grant award is 1.5 million. So our cost share will be half of that, 750,000. I mean, I would take a penny, just anything. So it's an ask. I mean, if we could do what we did before, I mean, we'd be grateful for that.
This grant is good for 2 years with a possible extension of 1 year, so 2 to 3 years.
So we are on some kind of a time constraint. I mean, we don't have to do it all this year, but I mean, this is the year that we can get a lot of work done because we have the window to do it in. Next year, we might not have it. I hope we don't have the window next year. If we have water.
So you're looking for something you said by the end of August?
Yeah, if we could get it.
Because our budget cycle's fiscal year is October 1st, so this budget cycle's already been closed out. So you're asking us to reopen it, to revisit our numbers?
Well, it's up to you guys. I'm not gonna tell you how to run the operation, sorry.
I mean, the work won't be completed, I mean, we could still be working on it in October, November. If weather permits, it's gonna be ongoing.
We can always have like a letter, like if your budget cycle starts up in October, if we have a letter of guarantee, more or less, for our vendors, that would be fine for our contractor that's gonna help us, like Columbia Pipe.
So the council last year put a kind of funding in reserve. So it's just sitting there. So that'll be an ask. We do a budget this time, and then we can still ask this body if they're still open to doing that. Okay. Councilman McCarthy.
Question on the 200,000. Where did that come out of the city budget? Did that come out of the water availability fees?
Availability, or was it?
I don't remember, and I don't like to shoot from the hip, so I have to.
We'll get you an answer.
The water available fees, that's the hookup fees for new development.
Let us get you the right answer. Okay,
thank you.
Tiffany, would you like me to just email this stuff to you?
Yeah.
Okay. Councilman.
Sorry, one last question here. Do you guys have any projections on anything you said you had done a separate fee on the water users, the farm users. Do you have any projection growth on how much you're closing that gap with the new fees and everything like that nature, or any numbers you can kind of provide us with those?
As far as the work left?
You were saying you're trying to meet that $750,000. Do you have any numbers to show kind of how much you're closing that gap with what you're increasing your fees and everything like that?
Yeah, we could get those. I mean, we've increased the assessments every year. We didn't do it this year, but we still kept the aging infrastructure assessment on there, which was in addition to the regular assessments. We've been doing that for, I believe, 8 years in a row, increasing assessments, and then we've had the aging infrastructure for 3 years.
I'd really appreciate some numbers like that. Not to speak
You bet.
quality, but good. That would be great.
Yeah.
Anything else for the irrigation district? Thanks, sir.
Alright, thank you.
Did you hold it really quick? Did you hold Brandon?
I emailed them and said I'm available when I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, council, let's run down to the consent agenda. It's a fairly long one, 20 of them to be specific. Is there anything on here that you need a little bit more clarification, ask about a little bit more depth? Councilwoman Workla?
Paul, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Did you get my message?
Yes, I did.
Okay. So my question is, I just want clarification. I received clarification from Jeff Schroeder on 18 and 19 on the consent agenda. But for the citizens, I want legal to also give the clarification of what this is on record. According to Jeff, it is a cost recovery related to remediation of water contamination. So it gives the city approval to join a class action lawsuit if the issue ever did arise within the city. Is this correct?
That is correct, yes. It doesn't mean that we have any water contamination at all, but it just affords Mountain Home and, well, basically every city the opportunity to join in it in case you get free testing out of it. It costs the city absolutely nothing. And if there's nothing wrong with our water, cross fingers there, hope so, then we don't need it, and we're doing just fine, and it doesn't cost us anything. If we do have something wrong with our water, then that is the mechanism for us to get funding for that. So it's a win-win across the board. There's really no reason not to do it, but you're being considerate, Councilman Workla, because if you didn't do it, or if you see it on the agenda and you're like, oh my gosh, well, there's something wrong with our water. No, there's no reason to think that. This is a just in case.
And Paul?
Yes, ma'am.
The reason why there's two agenda line items, 18 and 19, is because it's one federal and one local?
Yes, I believe so.
Thank you.
Oh, Councilman McCarthy.
No.
Get your mic on.
Paul, 19 is a resolution for the agreement. That's on number 18. So.
Yes, correct. There's a resolution to be passed. It was drafted by Doug Waterman, who is the attorney that's working on it. He also used to be our intern.
Councilman Wilmer, you asked.
Yeah, so I was told there was two different class action lawsuits. What do we have here? Just the one.
Just the one.
Yeah, I just have the one that legal recommended with the resolution that was drafted by legal.
Yeah, so when I spoke with Jeff over the weekend, he said that he checked into this a couple months ago, and he said that there were two that were out there, and that we were gonna potentially jump on board for both.
So, Councilman Harjo.
There's a lawsuit with DuPont and three individual lawsuits in the client designation for communication purposes. It describes the pending settlements. DuPont, 3M, and future settlements.
I think they're all encompassed into one.
Councilman McCarthy.
I had a question for 13 and 14, just for clarification. So we're awarding the contract, on the 13, we're awarding the pavement rehab contract to CR Contracting. But it seems that we're going out for a grant to pay for the project. I was going to ask Grace if we could get some clarification on that.
We're not actually going out for a grant. It's a grant that we get every year from the FAA. This money is already our grant. We're using it as part of the CIP. This is a CIP project that was projected 5 years ago. So we're not going out for a new grant. This is a grant that exists.
So we've already been awarded?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Just wanted to double check on that. Mayor?
Councilman.
If I could, I'd like to pull 6, 8, and number 17, please.
Okay. Council, do I have a motion to approve the agenda pulling 6, 8, and 17?
Mayor.
Council and McCarthy.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda pulling number 6, number 8, and number 17.
Second. It's been motioned and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. Councilman Harjo?
Aye.
Councilman Sanders?
Aye.
Councilman Workla?
Aye.
Councilman McCarthy?
Aye.
Run down to old business action, item deliberation decision regarding frequency concerns at the airport. Councilwoman Workla.
So, council, I'm sorry, just let Tiffany send this to you. If you can please check your inbox. I just got a response from Tom Mahoney today. I'm gonna read it out loud. So, I messaged him on Sunday with the response from FAA in regards to our airport manager's query. I said to Mr. Mahoney, I said, attaching FAA's response to our airport manager's query, council tabled our decision to decide on changing the frequency to this Tuesday's council meeting pending FAA's response. Would like to run FAA's response by you for your input. And so his input was, he emailed me today. He said, I applaud the FAA for adding more Unicom frequencies to reduce frequency congestion and improve safety. These added frequencies are useful in cases such as Idaho, which has experienced rapid population growth. With this increase in population comes an increase in air traffic and possible safety concerns. Reducing frequency congestion is one way to improve safety. Mr. Motley's letter, so that's from the engineer from FAA, does not address an important question. If the Mountain Home Airport were to use a different Unicom frequency not shared by other local airports, would frequency congestion be reduced? Clearly, the answer is yes. Safety at Mountain Home and other local airports would be improved. Mr. Motley's letter raises more questions than it answers. For example, how much does he understand the situation when he states that Ontario, Gooding, and Jerome are closer to each other than Mountain Home? And can he support the claim that most Unicom airports handle more than 100 operations daily and share the same Unicom frequency with nearby airports that also operate in the low 100s? The FAA added more frequencies to precisely alleviate those situations. Thank you for asking for my input. I support changing the frequency at the Mountain Home Airport because it can reduce frequency congestion and allow for safer communications at Mountain Home and other nearby airports. So again, Tom Mahoney is the he's the administrator of the Division of Aeronautics with the Idaho Transportation Department. We have been in communication with him, I think, since last October. He did state in a previous email, I'll quote, as an aeronautics safety steward, which is his position, I believe changing the frequency at Mountain Home will result in less congestion communication at the Mountain Home Airport and benefit other airports using the same frequency in southwestern Idaho. So we have citizens' input, which I appreciate. I've received citizens' input from both sides of the table, probably about equally. Yes, change it, and others who say do not change it. I respect both sides, both opinions of that. After receiving Tom Mahoney's email, I guess I want to just stir a conversation with council and see what your thoughts are.
There, Councilman Harjo. I think it's important to also share the verbiage from James Motley at the FAA. The letter states, Mr. Hogue, I appreciate you sharing the information and concerns. Based on the information we've obtained in surrounding airports, Mountain Home U-76 currently uses 122.8 megahertz, one of 7 Unicom frequencies designated for common traffic advisory frequency, or CTAP. The number of operations at U-76 appears to be minimal when compared with other airports that utilize a Unicom frequency. Most Unicom airports handle more than 100 operations daily and share the same Unicom frequency with nearby airports that also operate in the low 100s. The most important empirical information to be provided would come from the complainant. He requests that the complainant provide the date, time, along with the tail numbers of other aircraft, pilots, or FBOs that are using Unicom. With the what the communication consisted of, whether it was an emergency situation or a routine pilot awareness for the safe use of shared Unicom frequency. If the information is provided, the initial recommended action is to meet with your local airport users group to discuss the matter and determine whether other airports have similar complaints. 3 other airports are Ontario, Oregon, Gooding, Idaho, Jerome, Idaho. These airports are closer to each other than U-76. As a final action, it may be helpful to remind pilots that the skills needed to listen to and speak with the FBOs and other pilots for location awareness are the same as those needed when speaking with a variety of pilots. Thank you, and please let me know if you require any additional information. Jim Motley, Manager, FAA Western Service Area for Spectrum Engineering, U.S. Department of Transportation.
Mayor, Councilman Brennan. McCarthy. Get it?
I'm gonna get you a jar, a quarter jar. I'll just start. Chris, thank you for getting that letter over to us. That's why I had asked the email regarding your questions to you. I know you replied that that was all that you received. I had questions, I guess, from Mr. Motley when it came to what information he was providing. That's why I was asked of what Mr. Hope's questions. So, is Tom here?
Yes.
Can we get Tom to come down, please? So much for coming out.
Yeah, sure.
So, I guess my understanding of it when we had this conversation the last time during the last city council meeting is that you were getting a study. And I thought that was coming from the FAA, and that's why I kind of questioned about who you were chatting with and that nature. When I received this email, I guess to me it was the study of, I thought it would have been more in depth and actually provided more. So I guess can I start by asking you, what information did you share with Mr. Motley, the questions and everything that you had?
Yeah, so I had called him. So for one, if you go to the spectrum analysis number on their website, it goes to the Washington D.C. office. That's currently unattended. So it took a little bit of time to try to get to the right person within the FAA. So finally, I got a hold of Jim, and basically let him know that we were in the state of Idaho, the U-76 designator, and that the discussion has come up about the Unicom frequency, about being congested, and I explained to him the whole process of how it came about, that there are, in this case, a person or a group that feels that it's congested. So I asked him, is there a FAA definition variance for the threshold for considered congestion? And I asked him, how does the FAA come up with the standard of making Unicom frequencies? And what is their reasoning behind having Unicom frequencies at different airports that are similar? And if there's a safety issue at the Mountain Home U-76 airport, and if so, what would be the recommendation if there is a safety issue to go further about with it? And so he came back, I talked to him also, and basically he said the threshold at Mountain Home is below what they call their minimum level. So it's non-congested, it's minimum, it's not even on their, use the term radar. If you look at the valley on the way the frequencies are, because he gave me a couple different scenarios, because he actually looked at the whole valley. He said that the airports, right next to Buell, Burley, and there's one else that's 122.9, which are closer together. Then our frequencies are 122.8 in the valley, right? Is again done like that because of amplitude modulation. It gets into this whole frequency thing. So there's a whole synopsis that the FAA goes through for Because the FAA created the charts originally. Mountain Home didn't sit there and take the frequency for U-76. The FAA does, along with the other airports in that area. So there's a methodology that they use when they set up airport designations. And the AM modulation is used so that the closest airport or the closest transmitter is heard, but also the one behind it, right, for safety. It always boils down to for safety. I did pull this up because you had asked me that question. And I wanted to give you a real answer if it came up again. So the FAA uses amplitude modulation primarily for safety. Unlike FM, AM allows simultaneous reception of multiple signals. So it's specifically used for safety again. It talks about safety of interference, it talks about stuck mic, and it talks about the equipment and the structure, and also if you went to like an FM, the strongest signal would overshadow that. So in the valley here, they actually do that so you can specifically get situational awareness of what's going on around. So anyway, that was his response. When I had talked to him, he said, you guys aren't even on the threshold. It's like it doesn't even ping us on anything. So the whole issue about being congested is, by definition of what the FAA uses, not even an event. Right, would be the first thing I have to say. And then it's actually done for safety of the 122 weight. If it would be above a certain threshold, then obviously it goes above minimum, and it goes into the next level. And I believe, don't quote me on this, but I think Caldwell's at 400 a day. So that's why they changed their frequency. There's a whole synopsis of issues that occur when one safety weight overweighs another one, right? And that's how they evaluate it, and that's how they come up with the figures. How they come up with that behind the scenes, they didn't provide that to me. They don't discuss that. A couple times I could hear him clicking on the keyboard, pulling up stuff. He did pull up in conversation with me, the Jerome being, I think Jerome, don't quote me on this, but it's like 18 nautical miles to Gidding, and they use the same frequency. They're higher users than us, right? So, and that's very common throughout the U.S. I guess it really depends on when that threshold is way above, if there is an issue. So, without somebody having a stuck mic, there's nowhere in America that somebody cannot transmit for 8.5 minutes. There's no airport in the U.S. Atlanta, Georgia, I believe, is the busiest hub in the country, that they use AM modulation also. Planes couldn't land if that would be the case. And they're using one frequency. And I'm sure they're landing over 100 in a couple hours, right? And it's done every day. So if people follow the process of entering the traffic pattern, making the proper calls, Mountain Home Unicom or Mountain Home Traffic, 27 Whiskey's 10 miles to the east inbound for landing Mountain Home. The standard, it should only take 5 to 10 seconds to make a complete call on the radio. We don't have, I think our busiest per day for a year is 35. And when I say 35 users, that's the same plane getting captured on the takeoff and landings. So if you have one plane doing 10 landings, that counts for 10 of them.
I've seen that right over my house.
Okay. So, if it would be a safety concern, it would be multiple. There's no records. They have no documentation of any safety issues of Mountain Home. The FAA. You looked it up.
Okay.
And so for me, as the airport manager, when something comes up like this, we're also an ag-based community, right? I think a lot of people forget that in the development of this airport. So being as the airport manager, I'm supposed to look at the operations of the airport as the community that is using it. And I went to the largest ag operator that operates in this valley. I didn't just pick the smallest guy or the one that is currently at Mountain Home. I went to the larger one that actually owned the hangar at Mountain Home and still owns hangars at different airports. And that's where I got the one letter from. So I went to BLM, to somebody that worked in the fire services. I went to the busiest flight school that used Mountain Home Airport currently. So I try to hit the people that are the biggest operators that have different situations of use to be neutral and party of this, right? And so that's, there's a whole AC 90-66B that everybody relates to. On chapter 10, it talks about communication use at powered and non-powered airports and how pilots are supposed to operate. As the airport manager, I'm not the police. I have no technical enforcement powers. If there's a situation at the airport, I try to use it as a learning tool for that individual to be able to talk to. If it's a student pilot, if it's an ag pilot doing something a little crazy, right, that some might feel is crazy. The local police chief here can probably tell you that we get calls every now and then about different flights, ag operations, or just flights in general. And, I'm working with them to try to, educate the public, for one. That's the biggest thing that we can do. That, yeah, this is a traffic pattern. Airplanes have this. If it's a bigger plane, they fly higher. If it's a smaller plane, if they're an ag operator, they can fly on the deck, especially when they're loaded. So there are different guidance for all the different aviation operators. And as a common use airport, I want to be friendly to everybody. So I don't care if you're a powered parachute to a jet coming in. You have the right to come to the Mountain Home Airport. I've queried randomly the charter planes that are coming in. If you notice, there's quite a few jets nowadays coming in turboprops. And I've actually asked somebody, various people, at various times to come up and say, they don't even know what I'm going to ask the pilot. And I want to go up and ask them, hey, how you doing today, sir? How was your flight today? How was it coming into Mountain Home? Was there any issues coming in here? Any communications issues? And they look at me like I got 3 heads. So our usage is very low. Now, if somebody has an issue, I would say, read chapter 10 of AC 9066B. We have pilots that do not use the proper terminology, and on top of that, you don't even need a radio to fly in the Mountain Home. There's no communications required to fly into this airport. There's no transponder required. And we cannot dictate that. This city cannot, on the city-owned airport. The state of Idaho cannot. The only people that could change that is the FAA, the federal government. If they change the airspace, you would have to make it like a controlled Class D airspace.
I appreciate that, Tom. And I guess, thank you for that information. For me, it's, again, I thought we were getting more of a formal study, not just an email response, regardless how they, compiled their information and that. But I will say, I'll kind of mirror the comments of Councilwoman Worklow that I've received, half and half for and against this frequency change. Sure. And so, you've provided someone that's an expert with the FAA, and we also now have, an expert with ITD, the aeronautical, that's been, discussing this. And we're using their office for their expertise when it comes to grants and everything for the airport, I assume, correct? That's part of our packet tonight.
So the,
Sorry, just one second. So what I'm trying to say is, it feels like this is a split. So people for and against. And so when we had this discussion last time and it was going to be a study, this is where I thought we would have some hard, concrete and actual presentational studies. But I have to say right now I'm sitting here I'm still hearing for and against. So I guess one of my other questions would be, if changing the frequency, does that add to your, I'll say workload or duties or anything of that nature?
I would say yes.
Yes. Can you expand on that? And
Yeah, because currently people don't follow the notice. And so how do you enforce something? Can I also just throw something out there real quick, because you said something about the state and the federal government. So let's say we have an incident that relates to aeronautics. Just this past week, there was somebody called in an aircraft. And so the police department gets involved. And then Idaho Fish and Game gets involved. Both of them have no authority over the aircraft. The state does not have authority over the aircraft, the FAA does. So as soon as you jump off the ground, it's all the FAA. So for any organization, whether it's this city or the state of Idaho that overrules the FAA, that would be a hard one, in my mind. So, I mean, liability-wise, again, one's the governing body within the federal government that controls that publicizes the bars, the aims that we as pilots are held accountable to, and that all aviation regulatory guidance is given from.
Sorry.
I can't, all I'm saying is, I wouldn't want to make that call.
So I guess I'm asking, do you feel that with Tom Mahoney, they're no expertise in this?
Well, I think it's a discussion. Like you said, it can go both ways. But when you look at it legally wise, regulatory wise, I think that's a whole nother subject. And the other thing I'd like to point out, Tom Mahoney did not bring this issue up. An individual did, to talk with him. So that's how this all started.
Mayor.
Councilwoman Workla?
So with those comments being said, that the FAA is the head regulatory agency, right? So if we went ahead and submitted the FCC form, right, the frequency communication form, hang on, let me say the right words. It's the communication commission form to change the request to change the frequency. They could come back and say, no, it's not needed, correct? They can determine it's not needed. So if we did go out and submit the form, they ultimately would have to say if it should be changed or not. So why wouldn't we just inquire and put out the form and see what they say? If they deny us, then it's on the federal government's shoulders now, and not the city's government's shoulders.
So from what I understand, any sponsor can select to change the frequency at any time. The key is it safety driven? Is it a safety necessity?
Right.
So with the information that I have, currently I cannot make that decision.
No, right.
In my position.
So it's on us?
Especially, no, it's
on us now. That's why it's on our agenda as an action item.
okay, sure. Okay.
Mayor. Councilman Rodeo.
Thank you.
Sorry, Councilwoman Workla, go ahead.
So again, if we submit the form to them, they could come back and say no, correct? Like it's not needed because it isn't a safety issue. And it would be more of a safety issue because pilots fail to read the daily NOTAMs. I mean, I'm asking a question.
So
yes or no?
What you're saying is it's a bigger safety issue. I just came from a seminar the past 2 days, today and yesterday. And at that seminar, it was actually mentioned that somebody died at a small airport because they didn't read a NOTAM because of a line that was put up, right? I believe that's what it was. So people are not reading NOTAMs all the time at local small airports. So do we do something just for the sake of it to see how it sticks on the wall that possibly creates a bigger safety impact than leaving it as it is because it's something that's possibly politic-wise driven?
It's not politics. Like wise driven. This is lives driven. It's safety matter driven.
100%.
So please don't say politics. But I take this very seriously.
I'll hit on a couple quick things. The common thread throughout this has been there's been an escalation from the initial request through our airport advisory committee, who could not come to a consensus. It came to the city council a number of times in the previous configuration that did not come to a consensus until we finally came to a consensus that was an operations-based discussion and not a city council discussion. That the FAA has the ultimate authority over everything aeronautics. Here we have a letter from the FAA that states that there are airports using Unicom that handle more than 100 operations daily that share the same Unicom frequency with other airports and operate in low 100s. This is coming from the spectrum analysis and engineering office of the FAA that manages specifically communications. And one of the things that was discussed in yesterday's Idaho Airport Managers Association conference was the concept that because in the modern era, through spectrum analysis, airports are able to determine the number of flight operations without anybody actually being on the ground, strictly based on the number of radio calls associated with triangulation and pickup through spectrum analysis. That being said, the industry is moving in some instances towards a model that says, okay, we can charge, fees based on the knowledge that the radio broadcasts are tied to tail numbers. They know specifically where airplanes are today. You can go on FlightAware right now and type in U-76 and see every airplane in the air in our region. You can zoom way out and look through the entire valley corridor. Tail numbers associated with those as well. So I guess I'm struggling to understand, A, why this council feels that it's our duty to override standardized procedures that are already in place. AC 9066C, 10.1, subsection 4. Pilots should limit communications on CTAP to safety essential information regarding arrivals, departures, traffic flow, takeoffs, and landings. CTAP should not be used for personal conversations. That's straight from the FAA. Bingo. In this instance, what has been brought up a number of times through all of the conversations is radio discipline. And again, this falls right into the same line of our pilots reading manuals. This is a user-based experience issue that clearly falls below the threshold of what the FAA in their letter has set as even something that would catch their attention. There is no record of any near misses. There have been no accidents at the Mountain Home Airport in how many years, Tom? Long since before your time. I again think that this conversation is getting long in the tooth. It is not legislatively intended by any U.S. code that a city council can override a federal aviation administration ruling, let alone matters of independent opinion doing that. I think we're punching far above our weight class in this conversation. I think we're putting in a lot of time and effort over something that through every level we have not listened to our airport advisory committee, we've not listened to our engineer, we have not listened to our hired and contracted airport manager, that are all said this is not an issue at this point. The FAA has now stated we have not exceeded a threshold of operations to even give this enough attention. Reading between the lines and somewhat, taking this information for what it is. I would like to see this tabled indefinitely.
Mayor.
Go ahead, Councilman.
Okay, and the reason, I just want to clarify, the reason why it was brought to us is because the Airport Advisory Committee was having two opposing views. So I just have to make that clear. They brought it to us. It wasn't us asking for them to bring it to us. Okay, so that's why we're in this spot. And then we took it upon ourselves, or I took it upon myself, to further inquire with the Administrator of Division of Aeronautics. And when he says here in another email, that was a month ago, while adopting a new permanent frequency is not a common occurrence, in my experience, a pilot and flight can safely change frequencies. Example, Coeur d'Alene uses one or more frequencies while the temporary tower is open and yet another frequency when the tower is closed. I flew there twice this week and used all the frequencies. Another relevant example occurred at the Caldwell Airport. In late 2021, Caldwell changed frequencies due to congestion. For reference, here is the city resolution. A notice was published. There have been no accidents associated with the frequency change. So I also want to clarify as well that there's historical information that is coming from the Division of Aeronautics. Again, if I wasn't receiving this from Mr. Mahoney, all these emails where he is emphatically saying change it for safety reasons, and then again, it's not just the one person that I know you were referencing that is coming to us. We've received, at least I've received multiple communications from pilots saying please do, right, that have many years of flying experience. I can't just, turn a blind eye because the airport manager says it's not a good choice. I'm not saying that you're incorrect either. I'm not saying he's wrong either. I'm not. That's why I want to stir this conversation up with the other council members. I'm not making a motion right now to change it. I'm stirring up a conversation so I can see what the council would like to do.
Hey, Paul, are you there? Well, hang on a second. I'm gonna let Tom go. Then you.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Paul, is this a day-to-day operation issue?
A day-to-day operation?
Yes, this is a day-to-day operation issue.
Generally, I would say yes.
Okay. Go ahead, Tom.
So on the timeline, so for one, the airport board, when this issue originally came up to the board, it was discussed in the board that it was a non-issue. That was originally what happened. It was a non-issue. It was not going to be put on anything.
Wait a minute.
Hang on a second. Let me finish.
So November, we had 2 people from your board had opposing views, and they did PowerPoint slides.
Prior to that, a year prior to that.
Pro change and.
That was afterwards. Prior to that, when this issue originally came up, during the original airport board meeting, it was tabled as a non-issue. The council, the board, everybody looked at each other and they were like, there's no issue here at the Mountain Home Airport. The individual that brought that was not happy with it and kept on going with it.
Sure. Sorry.
And then, so at the original board, it was discussed. The percentage was for no change of the board. The individual, and maybe a couple people were not happy with it because it wasn't everyone. They kept on pushing it forward, keep on bringing it up. It was discussed with Tom Mouintain from the state of Idaho prior to the meeting of the conference, of the stand-down conference. And that's the reason why the state brought it up in the conference. They didn't bring it up on their own initially. It was because somebody brought it up to them. And that person was from Mountain Home, the same person that brought up to him about the FedEx contract.
Mayor.
Go ahead, Councilwoman.
And I understand what you're saying. I had actually just went back to his, I think it was October 28th. I have an email here, and it's from an individual. It's not the individual that you're referencing.
Sure.
That gave that amplifying data regarding the discussion and audio and visual information. So since we've been on, that's what we've been seeing, right? And I understand, I can see the frustration for sure.
This has been going on for 2 years.
Sure. But again, like, anyway, I'll be done with that.
All right, council, we've beaten this thing to death. It seems like, and I'm gonna agree with Tom. I think it is political. You know, I mean, it's just everyone trying to get a win. Nobody needs to get a win. If there was an issue, I would come to Tom and say, hey, we have an issue. Tom, I need to change something if we have to do the process, you know.
I would do the same.
Correct. Tom would come to me and say, hey, Mayor, we got an issue. It's been voted on. It's been passed. We're wasting not wasting, sorry, but we've been talking about this for, like I said, 2 years, and it's time to put it to bed. And if it's day-to-day operation, then it's a moot point. If the airport board advisory committee said nothing, I don't think it was fair to throw that onto the body, you know, because we're all not airport savvy people. So in the same sense, I think it should just is done.
But we are in this predicament because the airport committee did bring it to us. So that's why we are here with this on the agenda.
But I guess I shouldn't have brought it forward because I put it on here.
I'm trying to find where they recommended because the body.
No, I put it on here.
Yeah.
I did. Go ahead, Chris.
I chair that airport committee. They have never at any point in the history of this conversation made a recommendation to the mayor and council to change the frequency. That has never occurred.
Mayor, correct, but I was at an airport advisory committee where they said, we have opposing views. Let's bring this to council so they can actually be the tiebreaker. Or I mean, they can make the decision, the final decision on that, right? Because we're at a stance.
Mayor,
go ahead.
The job of any advisory committee is to make recommendations, correct?
Correct.
That recommendation never happened, and that's all I'm saying.
And it's been voted on, and it's done. You got voted on.
It did not get voted on. At the airport advisory committee?
No. I'm talking about the council. The airport, this frequency thing's been voted on.
With the prior council, yeah.
Right.
So I brought it back because we had new council members that were concerned and campaigned, and so yeah, that's on me to bring it back for sure. Okay. But that's why I hear Mr. Councilman McCarthy's response. Councilman Sanders, do you have an opinion?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Sanders,
I've listened intently to the conversation over the past several months. This evening, I'm reminded of when this first came to the body when I was still sitting on that side of the dais. And I listened to another council member go through the FAA rules and regulations and state definitively that there was not a threshold for requirement of when this has to be done. I, like other council members, have had multiple contacts, and with all respect to everybody who put in their 2 bits worth, if I took all the alphabet soup that came with their names, I could feast well. I've had everyone from tower operators to flight instructors to fighter pilots to vintage airplane drivers. They could comment one way or the other. And the information that was at the one advisory board I attended where this topic was brought up came after a discussion where someone took their own personal time to do a survey based from the Air Force Base of all the radio traffic they were able to track and the number of contacts. I was hoping to see that from the FAA. That's kind of what I was leaning toward to see the response come back. And what I'm hearing now was not in that report. I'm not hearing that they did a full spectral analysis and this was the number of hits involved. I didn't see that in the report. If everybody drove the speed limit, then everybody read the NOTAMs. And they don't. I've got folks that talk tonight about 122.8 being where everybody is. I've also had them say that that didn't congest the frequency to be at one place where everybody is. The data that was developed here locally, I don't think was ever shared with the FAA. I'd be interested to see how that matches their spectral analysis for this. And then again, even at that, bear in mind, members, that doesn't handle any vintage plane that is flying because it's not required to have a radio on board. And that increases risk for those that do. They have to maintain their situational awareness for those that are not running a radio. When this was brought up before, it was voted on and it was a split vote, which shows there was concern by the council even then when it was first brought up. And yet still here we are, the experts in the room cannot agree, and we're being asked again to give them guidance on what to do next. If we can't provide that in our best judgment, based on the information available to us in our own reasoned way, then we are not doing a service for those who bring the question to us. I would like to see this come to a head one way or the other. If folks followed the process, we might not have had this conversation in the first place. Everybody read the NOTAMs, everybody followed by the rules. The fact of the matter is, and it's been admitted to multiple times, they're not. How do we rule the unruly? Once they get in the air, you say it's the FAA. But the FAA isn't the one taking care of the airport. The FAA isn't the one listening to those clearances at takeoff and landing and reporting where their locations are. So we're being asked to decide a question they couldn't decide for themselves. I think we ought to decide it, and then everybody lives with the consequence. And just to be clear, I have been told of catastrophic consequences whether we take a frequency change or not. Both sides are so passionate that they're convinced there'll be loss of life whether we do it or not. That just tells me they're passionate about it, which means they're not going to be happy about it when they get the answer. But if they can't figure out the answer for themselves and they come to us, we give them an answer. And then they go live with it, as do the rest of us for every issue that comes before this council.
Mayor,
Councilman Rodeo?
that being said, strictly from the risk prevention perspective, maintaining the status quo introduces no additional risk. The introducing of risk comes with a change in frequency in this case.
Absolutely.
There, Councilman Harder, are you finished or? Oh, sorry. Well, I think Councilman Sanders, you did it right on the head. Where again, I kind of come back to what I had brought up this originally, is where I thought we were getting a true study and not necessarily just an email response. I guess I'm a little concerned when I hear, well, just because the committee didn't bring something up as an issue, and we shouldn't be talking about this. Because we've had committees in the past that have brought up issues, and they have gone unanswered, I guess, by this administration in the past. So I don't think that necessarily, just because it's not brought up by an advisory committee, means that we should be looking at it and having a full-on conversation. So I think, yeah, with Councilman Sanders, I think it's, for me, it's one of those I'd like to see kind of a little more of this study that we were told that we were going to see. I know Mr. Motley had talked about working with the advisory committee, the airport advisory committee, to talk about or discuss this further. I'm just throwing out options there, but to me, again, this comes back to, not to steal Councilman Sanders' words, but this is just an alphabet soup of, I guess, fors and against, and I just don't see a clear path of what and how we need to decide this. So.
All right. Council, what do you want to do? You want something brought back, a study, or further discussion? Councilman Harjo.
I think historically, states and their political subdivisions have had no authority to declare or define the role of a federal agency. We can ask, but we do not have any authority to dictate to the FAA of what they will provide to us in the storm.
Mayor,
Councilman Sanders.
with respect, I don't think that's the issue. I think the issue is the FAA has given us broad guidance and our responsibility is to act within it. And whether it's not specific guidelines on where those boundaries fall, it's left to our judgment to take action.
Mayor,
Councilman Workload.
I still don't have my question answered. I don't know if anyone, I don't know, in the audience or anything could answer my question. But I want to know if we do submit this Federal Communication Commission form to the FAA, is there a chance that they will review the analytics that you're mentioning and come back and say it's not necessary? I want to know, will the FAA deny that? If they do, then I'm okay with that, right? Because it's on them. But no one has been able to answer that if that's the case or not.
So hang on a second. So what I'll do is we'll reach out and see if they will do something for you, and see if they will either say yay or nay. Like give you the analytics for the frequency change.
I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but Tom Mahoney had already offered there his office assistance with that whole frequency change. But not for you. Beneficial to bring him into it to help with the discussions with FAA.
I don't know if it'll be beneficial or good or bad. I don't know. But I could ask. Councilman Sanders.
Mr. Mayor, I don't know how much deeper in the weeds we want to go into this to keep this going forward. I don't think we're going to see a chart that tells us after so many communications in an hour it needs to be changed. If that were available, we'd have had it 2 years ago. I think what we're going to come back to is a discussion on what do we want to do with this issue. If we submit a request to change the frequency, if the FAA sees no reason not to approve it, they're going to approve it. And our decision was then made in the fact we made the request. It says we're operating within the parameters of the current rule by making the request. They would have to have a definitive reason to deny it, not a convenience of whether or not there was sufficient traffic to warrant. If it were the other way around, we'd be expecting the FAA to be contacting us and say, you guys are getting at or near the threshold, have you considered, unless it became a safety issue and they mandated it, which they've not been known to do for non-towered airports. So we're going to chase our tails a little bit here. And we're going to wind up back in the same dilemma where we don't have the gold standard we're looking for. I just don't want to have this happen to be a decision that's driven by just simply hearsay. And the closest we've had to that has been the report that was put to the board, the advisory board, concerning air traffic as it was tracked from Mount Home Air Force Base. That's the only real data we've had handed to us on the ground, and even by that submission, it was relatively incomplete. So.
Mayor.
Councilwoman Workload.
So are you, Councilman Sanders, are you assuming or do you know that they would just automatically approve it because it's a submission that we're requesting?
Go ahead,
Councilman Sanders.
My remarks in that regard came from working with other federal agencies where the guidance given was quite broad. And basically in that arena, my experience has been, if you're working with the federal government and their rules allow you broad discretion, anything you ask for that doesn't violate those rules is going to be granted unless they have a specific reason otherwise.
Okay. All right, Council, what do you want to do? Do you want to kick this can down the road a little bit more? You wanna vote on it? What do you guys wanna do?
Mayor,
Councilman Harjo.
make a motion to table this topic indefinitely.
There's a motion to table it. Do I have a second? Hearing none. The motion dies. All right, council.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Sanders.
I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to move this item be taken back to the Airport Advisory Board until they can make a recommendation and then bring that to the council.
There's a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
It's a second. There'd be further discussion. Councilwoman Horkler.
Okay, thank you. Are you going to put any stipulations on that? Like they need to, because apparently we have two heads within our state that have opposing views from the letters that we saw. Are you going to ask the Airport Advisory Board to have correspondence with them, or are you just going to have them go back to where they're just having opposing views within amongst themselves?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Sanders.
Councilman Workla, I'm not the liaison, so I can't directly advise on this, but my hope would be that they would take a look at all the emails and all the information that's been provided to us at the council and go back and revisit it as a group. It is, from my perspective, their charge to come up with the recommendation, yes or no. And if they recommend, since it's now in our court, they've got to bring us something. Let's have them do the work that they're best suited to do with all the information that we've had available to us, they have available to them. And now 2 years later, can they go back and do the work and come up with a recommendation? If they can't reach a recommendation, then that issue is still not right for our consideration. That's my position.
It's been motion and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. Councilman McCarthy.
Aye.
Councilwoman Workla.
Nay.
Councilman Harjo.
Aye.
Councilman Sanders.
Aye.
Okay. Run down to new business. Items removed from the consent agenda. Number 6, Councilman McCarthy, the floor is yours. Council.
So I asked to pull number 6. Others. Specifically for, I'll say concerns, where Mayor, we had correspondence, as well with Chris, regarding the workshop with Keller, regarding the wastewater issue. Chris, I know you sent us dates and emails for that. I know you've gotten 2 responses from us, Councilwoman Workla and myself. I guess for me, I would like to, the reason why I pulled 6 is because I would like to ask an update on where we're at with this, where I do not feel comfortable that we're continually paying Keller on these projects when we are trying to be accountable for what we're using on the enterprises.
6 is payroll, it's not expenditures.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I thought I pulled the wrong one. Oops.
You passed the other one in.
Yep. Never
But
mind.
hey, but really quick.
Sorry, we said Chris and Tiffany and Keller. I'm like, no.
So really quick. Continue with your question, just so we can get you an answer.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then we'll prove 6 in a second. I was like, I tried to I just
I wonder why I was getting dirty looks from that. Well, better all.
But anyways, ask your question so we can get you an answer.
So my question is, I would like to get a clear, defined answer when we are having this workshop, what the cost is in that, because again, my concern was the expenditures with Keller that you're continually paying out, and I would like to see that we are showing the public that we are being responsible with the enterprise funds when it comes to wastewater and water. So that's why I had originally attempted to try to pull the expenditures.
Okay. Okay. So we'll get you something.
Well, there.
Go ahead, Sarah.
Like I have the agenda ready to go up for April 30th at 5 p.m. But that is a topic of only deciding direction on wastewater treatment where we're going. Like there's no other. So if the question is the workload of all of the task orders that Keller provides us in engineering services, then that's a whole other ball of wax. So just
good.
And thank you, Tiffany, for correct. No, it specifically
Just
was
that.
the workshop that I had brought up on the February 24th meeting about getting this so that we can get clear direction and allow the public to ask Keller their questions and as well as this council.
Go ahead, Tiff.
So on that same meeting, Councilman Harjo said that that would be council's decision and discussion with Keller, not open to the public to ask Keller. It would be at your guys' level and then to host a workshop at a later date to educate the public and let them dialogue with you all.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And so as of Chris's communication with the other members of Councilman Workload was the only one in my knowledge that said the 30th today at 5 p.m. So.
Yeah, I thought it was in the morning.
I was told that. I'm sorry.
No, morning.
In my email says I can only do the 30th in the morning.
In the morning. Can we do the morning? It makes it work. Okay, we'll do the 30th in the morning. Okay. So it'll probably be 90. We'll follow up with Keller and update you.
Okay, really quick, can I get a motion to approve number 6?
Yeah, sorry, Mayor.
Councilman McCarthy.
With my apologies, I make a motion to approve consent agenda number 6, payroll period of February 22nd, 2026 to March 21st, 2026, in the amount of $803,735.74.
Second.
Been motion and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. Councilman Harjo.
Aye.
Councilwoman Worklife.
Aye.
Councilman McCarthy.
Aye.
Councilman Sanders.
Aye.
All right, we're going to run down to action item number 8 that was pulled. Councilman McCarthy, the floor is yours.
Number 8 for the Golf Advisory Committee, I just wanted to pull this. I think this is great. Thank you, Tiffany and Mayor, for sending these over and getting this forward. I believe it even beat the deadline that we had put originally with you, Tiffany, on the April 9th for posting and everything, so that's great. Again, I can't state nor enough that I'm very much in favor of the Golf Advisory Committee. This is great to bring in there. I wanted to bring to the public, or to this body, just to ask, just a consideration, Mayor, because I know that you had brought up all the appointees. Is there any concern with this council regarding having contractors, or excuse me, with, on the advisory committee, actually having members who are contracted with the city through agreement and that? Specifically, I'll just say for Jared. So again, it's nothing of that, it's not against that. I just wanted to bring that to the bodies as if there's any concern with having, is it, if we go with a contractor, are we going to have one contractor on the advisory committee, or would it be better to have the contractors working with the advisory committee? That is the only reason why I wanted to bring it up, just for that specific reason, and not to single out Jared or anything like that nature. It's just to have a conversation of how we want to see this advisory committee work with other bodies with the golf course when we decide which way to go.
Maybe ladies first.
Councilwoman.
Good point. Never even thought of that, right? Because there was discussion previously about his name being brought up, potentially being a contractor for that space, just as a conversation, because it still has to go through the official process, right? So that's a very good point. Never even thought of that. Because I actually, at first, I'm like thinking, yes, great candidate or great individual to put on there. But that, kudos to you. I didn't think about that.
Councilman Sanders.
Mr. Mayor, there is potentially for conflict of interest. When you take a look at, they're currently paying us for we're leasing them an operation that they're conducting that has direct business operations with the public. there's potential then on the advisory board, even though it could be almost virtually a non-issue. It's the appearance that may drive, and to avoid the appearance of a conflict of interest may be the overriding factor there. Nothing to do, this is actually nothing on the integrity or the honesty of the persons involved, no more than it would be for a council member who might find themselves in a similar situation. We could not ask the contractor to recuse themselves on a continual basis should something come up about concessionaires there at the golf course, regardless of what they're providing. So that would be a concern potentially. Yes.
Mayor. Councilman McCarthy.
And I want to state, Jared here, I can't state enough for the record. Thank you, Councilman Sanders. This is not a question of integrity. It's, for me, I just wanted to bring this to the body to see if that is that appearance of a conflict of interest. I believe that with the Golf Advisory Committee, it should very much be like mirror the Twin Falls Advisory Committee, where they are working with the contractor that happens to be with operations and maintenance of the golf course. They are working together to come there. But again, I can't state enough for the record, this is not an issue with Jared's integrity or any of that conflict. That is purely just a structural, that's why I wanted to bring to this body. So.
Mayor,
Councilwoman Wolf.
I'll make a motion to approve the reinstatement and appointment of members of the Golf Advisory Committee minus Jared Lemieux in that position.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I would just, chapter 2 of city ordinance on advisory committees, it specifically says golf course committee. The golf course committee shall have the duty and responsibility to suggest and make recommendations to the mayor and council, golf professional, and golf course superintendent concerning development, use management of a municipal course. So there's nothing stated about a concessionaire. There's nothing stated about budgeting or any of those things of nature.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Sanders.
With respect, it may be a concessionaire providing the operation the course currently provides for food and beverage.
So there's a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. Councilman McCarthy.
Aye.
Councilman Sanders.
Aye.
Councilwoman Workla.
Aye.
Councilman Harjo.
Nay.
Okay. Alrighty, the last one is number 17, and Councilman McCarthy, the floor is yours once again.
So I asked to pull this item. Chief, we had a chat. Thank you so much for going through with this. Fully supportive of this. I understand why it's needed. So please don't take this as anything to show that I'm against this. I have concerns when it comes to budget, especially when it comes to other actions, transactions, I'll say. So again, this has nothing to do with Lexington One Police Department. I'm fully supportive of this. My concern coming from this, when we have the breakdown of the payment for Lexington,
Is it regarding the city hall funding?
the HR consulting, yes, and that's why I wanted to bring that. So I have concerns when we have that I had brought in the past about the HR program that we had in the past with that memo from last year before my time that was paid out with enterprise funds from water and wastewater. And so that's my concern of, again, we want to support the police department, but I feel that, using those water and wastewater fees, I'm trying to be a bit, trying to be observant on how we're using those. And so when we had something that was HR program and we used those, we used in the past with water and wastewater fees, which I understand all departments use, But when I'm seeing the report of the water and wastewater paid 50% of that program, but I don't see anything coming back to pay water and wastewater, that's where I see of the issue of, are we using those funds appropriately?
Your puzzle face got my puzzle face.
Yeah.
So can you clarify the paid back portion? I guess I don't understand that at all.
Right. So, well, there's not going to be a payback, but essentially the HR program, which I know the memo there, I didn't pull up, but it was 50% went from admin to the HR program. It was around $11,000, I think it was, and then it came out with water and wastewater. That's where I'm kind of looking at, are we using water and wastewater funds appropriately?
So you're speaking on the prior, not Lexipol?
Yes, no, sorry, the Lexipol.
Correct.
I get, and that's where I'm kind of going. If we used that in the past, and then we're moving.
Correct. So just a little bit of back history. The HR consulting is, we used to consult with a company third party. That company is disbanded. They're no longer under contract with us. They're actually no longer in business. And so last year we had $5,000. I actually cash carried over that amount and didn't even spend it. The police department, the chiefs and Amy came in to me because of Lexipol is real-time policy review for our officers in the field when laws change. And so right away they're talking to me and they're talking about using funds and going into next budget's operating year. And I thought, well, I have this because I'm not going to spend it. I'm working on my budget presentation now. I'm going to cash carry it over. I was like, well, Ty, this is a check in the box to help Daniel and I make sure we're checking on the boxes with our guys out in the field, our guys and gals, excuse me, in the field that are doing real-time policy verification. So that's why it was proposed that way as a win-win. The other stuff, again, unfortunately, we have to share the pot because of the responsibilities. Admin can't house everybody. We don't have enough money to pay all of the other things that we process. We allocate out of multiple funds. Staff are paid out of multiple funds to make day-to-day operational work here in the city. I hope that answers the question. So how we got there. So.
Okay, go ahead. And thank you, Tiffany. And again, for Chief, I know you need it, and I completely 100% agree, especially the savings that you guys are getting and everything. So it's just, I'm trying to bring this up because if you haven't noticed the theme with me, I'm very much concerned with the water and wastewater funds when we have the rates, when we've talked about Railroad Park and staff, all these things. So I just want to bring this to the board that we understand that what's being paid out of those funds. And is it truly something that, I'll just say, with no respect or disrespect, but appropriate, I would say. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. So,
Mayor.
Go ahead, Councilman Arjo.
The statement that HR is strictly paid out of water and wastewater is not completely accurate.
Point of order.
Hang on a second. Go ahead, just finish.
The municipality as a whole has clearly multiple functions, some of those being enterprise, and the majority of the day-to-day operation, the front half of City Hall is attributed towards water and wastewater utility, but the general fund is property tax funded. The concept that we're going to hold up a tool that the police department has done their research, understood what the need is, based on what appears to be on the surface here, a misunderstanding of how municipal funding and budgeting is. I'd like to get a better understanding on what your understanding is, Councilman McCarthy, about specifically how these functions of our municipality are budgeted for and expended.
So really quick, gentlemen, I think let's just stay on task and then we can have this discussion later. So, Councilman, really quick, is your issue the 5,000 that we're taking out of the admin budget to process some of the HR stuff for the police department for Lexipol? Is that the issue?
Mayor.
Councilman.
No, and I'd like to address, that is not what I said about paying straight for the funds of the HR program. The memo had 50% coming out of water and wastewater and 50% out of the admin. I have no problem with flexible. The question is, the HR consulting is brought up now to pay for it, but why wasn't it used when it comes for the HR program? Again, it comes back to the enterprise funds, and this was brought up when we had discussions with the water and wastewater increase, how this was budgeted. This increase wasn't budgeted before the new council had come on regarding items for the budget map. So while I'm asking, it's just for, again, support to the police department, and by means that's completely and 100% what I'm saying. But what I'm asking is a little bit of understanding of other ways that the water and wastewater has been used when we're using the funds on this. Why wasn't it used back then to help support instead of putting 50% in there? Again, please don't insinuate or make a, I guess, argument that I'm against supporting the police department in this program. It is simply to bring awareness of how we're using enterprise funds for other projects when we have an interline or an interaction with other HR pieces. So that's it.
Copy that, Councilman. So I'm trying to find in this lexical where we're using water or wastewater funds in this.
It's NeoGov. It's I'm sorry, Mayor.
Go ahead.
I just jumped out of line. No point of order. He's referencing the NeoGov software that is our onboarding for staffing that we recently adopted back the first of the year.
I thought we were talking about the LexaPro right now.
Correct. Councilman McCarthy keeps referring back because
Copy that.
water and wastewater helped fund the NeoGov software implementation.
Copy that. I got you.
Okay. Where we, Mayor?
Good.
We're using the HR consulting. So that's why I wanted clarification. Why we're using the HR planning, which Tiffany, thank you. Now in this instance versus why didn't we use it for past HR? That's all. So okay, that's been addressed. So thank you. Mayor.
Councilman.
With that being said, I'll make a motion to pass consent agenda number 17.
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded. Any further discussion?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Sanders.
Taking a look at, I don't mean to drag this out any longer than necessary, but I'm looking at the paragraph just below where the breakout of funding came from, and it says, for those of you who haven't got it dialed up, this funding strategy provides a total of $17,400 toward the implementation during the current fiscal year. The remaining balance, $16,198.50, be paid in October using next fiscal year's budgeted funds. And then there's ongoing maintenance costs. We've not set a budget yet. Are we committing to a financial obligation before we have a budget setting? If so, then I suggest we consider taking this out of contingency so we move forward and take advantage of the discounts and offerings that are being provided and not hamstring ourselves going into next year's fiscal budget cycle.
Fair. Councilman McCarthy.
Councilman Sanders, I appreciate that input. I think that's a great idea. Can I, sorry.
Go ahead.
What do we, this might be off the cuff. Can we get numbers for what's in the contingency from this, remaining for this budget?
Mayor, I know you hate being thrown on the spot. I don't have Amy. You know the budget so well for your department. So when it's asking to pull it from next year's fiscal year, is that going to be a problem?
So really quick too, didn't we already? Yeah, please.
I'm not yelling.
Get up and get it. Go ahead.
In regards to your question, that's why we submitted this via request versus a memo, because it is going to add to the budget next year. We didn't want to do a memo and say, hey, we just want to reallocate these funds, because then half of it is still going to be outstanding. Because of the savings that we benefit, as long as we do it before April 30th, that's why it was such a rush for us to come and do this.
And Mayor,
go ahead.
And you know your budget the best. So if this remaining that's being asked to be taken out of the next year's budget, is that going to affect you in a negative way?
It'll have to increase our software licensing line by $12,798.50 because we will offset it a portion by not paying for Power DMS.
So when Councilman Sanders offered to pay it up front, the entire thing out of contingency, what's your thoughts?
Take it.
I don't know if I should have thoughts on that.
It's a compliment.
We appreciate it, just, there's gonna be a contract though with this that we need to prepare for annual maintenance.
There is an annual renewal, yes.
There's a reason why that's so big. Oh, do you mean with this?
Okay, I know there's a motion and a second. Is there any amendment, or are we gonna go with this? Councilman, McCarthy?
I guess, I know there's a motion and second, but I would ask if the original motioner would be open to using contingency fund to set up the police department better, but then also using the HR consulting fee, which sounds like it's not being used right now, if that goes back to paying part of that HR program.
You mean, I guess so use the we're gonna use the 5,000 to pay this, but you're wanting the HR consulting fee to pay, what was it?
The NeoGov to replace back in the enterprise funds.
In her front, if she doesn't even use the turnaround?
If we, the reason she put it in so they wouldn't have a front yard, except for that little patch. I mean, and it was, I used to have it circular drive, but mine went behind my house, because that's where the parking was. And we've always got circular drives, yes.
But she's
not
mine. Okay.
No, it's for, I don't know the word, Annie looks more than anything else.
All right, council. What's your thoughts?
If I might say, I wouldn't want to do something that would cause anybody any injuries or hurt anybody, and I don't think that, well, that's because I want it, probably, but I don't think that it would hinder any movement of people or vehicles. I just don't.
There.
Councilman Harjo.
Ms. Parker, can I ask you a question? This is purely hypothetical. We'll zoom in on this portion right here that's kind of the overlooking portion of where you want to put that 6-foot fence. So, in a lot of other senses, and I'll make it very simple, there's what we call the vision triangle.
Right.
So, like if you pull up to an intersection that you want to have some clearance at the corner so you can see that traffic happening. And this is also a question for Hank. Is there a middle ground in which, if you follow my cursor across here, that Ms. Parker, if you were to take that for being a 90 and make 2 45s, so in the instance that somebody is walking down the sidewalk approaching your daughter's house, that they could see that person coming, would that be something that would be a compromise to you?
I mean, there's the person walking would be able to see the car if it had stopped there before it pulls out in the street, which my son is a very good driver.
Hey, Cheryl. I think the question is would you be amenable to have your fence go like this?
I thought about it, and I could do that. I don't want to, because I have my mind set up. No, I take care of myself, and I do my own thing. And I mow my own yard, I do all that kind of stuff, and I don't wanna go outside my fence to take care of my yard. I'm getting too old to what, I've got a big area. The only way to this backyard is through the back door. If I'm mowing or working in the backyard, I have to go through my house to the front and go all the way around to this corner, for maintenance. And I just am too old to do
That's why I
that.
didn't mean to cut you off.
No, thanks for illustrating.
Yeah. But I did think about that for if I have to.
Councilman
Thing.
McCarthy?
Ms. Parker, I have a question for you. So, with this, we've been provided that this falls under the city ordinance for the height when
Right.
it comes to that.
I understand.
What would you say to, I guess in a hypothetical, to all the other homeowners here in town that have, been held to the same ordinance? And
I don't believe that they have, but that's okay.
do you have any incidents or examples to show they haven't, or?
It's not my business, and I wouldn't even have told you that was my daughter's house.
So, and I appreciate your perspective on this, Ms. Parker. I guess I'm just kind of curious because when I'm driving around town and looking at other fences, they are meeting the ordinances now. So I couldn't find any examples that have the exception. So I guess that's where I'm.
And I did, and I can't remember where it was, but most of them are pretty good. I do know that on 10th Street going from Highway 30 to 18th, that's a main street.
Hey, Cheryl, I'm gonna let Councilman McCarthy finish.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. So I guess I struggle with this, and again, I understand your perspective on this, and I'm very much for property rights, but I guess for me, I struggle because we have examples of the homeowners that have, followed this ordinance when it comes to their fences, either corner lots or inside, lots and everything like that. So I guess for me, I'm just trying to say that, well, I understand. I feel that if we make an exception here, what causes us not to make an exception for others down the road, or those who have currently following the ordinance?
Now, what I was trying to say is, if you go from Haskett down 10th Street to 10th Street and cross over, there's 3 backyards. There's no sidewalk on the left-hand side. They all have double gates in their backyards, and they come right up to where if there was a sidewalk. They can't see out, and that's a main street. I mean, that goes straight through. My street doesn't. It turns right away. And that's one thing that I've noticed. If they can't come out their backyard and be able to see down the street, and I'm not asking to do that, because you can see down the street when you come out of this driveway.
Mrs. Parker?
Yes. Oh, gosh, I'm sorry. I'm hard of hearing, too. I thought it was fine.
I'll tell you, I'm having a little bit of deja vu right now,
Mm-hmm.
because my very first experience with a city council was in this chamber back in about 1986, when I built a fence around my brand new home, and
that's what
then
I
got
have.
cited for it being out of code because it was within setback areas, but I had done it based on the information that was provided to me by a city employee at the time. So I came and pleaded my case. The city council said, guys, I built this fence based on the specs you gave me, and now you tell me it's a violation. And I found several folks who had similarly situated stuff. So I do understand wanting to get something done a certain way, and I do understand the need for the codes. I'm also, with all the respect in the world I can come up with, because you made the point, yeah, you've been in a mountain home longer than I've been alive. Our concern also is that house is going to survive you.
Yes, it goes to my daughter.
And if everything goes as you have it planned, it will go to your daughter.
Yes,
But one thing about life is its predictability is uncertain at best.
that's correct.
So we try to make conditions that will make it safe and consistent for everybody who comes and goes as life takes its circle. So my question to you is, if you want the privacy fence, are you willing to take that deviation and perhaps zero-scape that little triangle so you wouldn't have to go around to mow it?
May I ask you something?
Of course.
How far back would I have to take it?
That would be something I would probably take up with the engineer. The vision triangle they're referring is a certain distance, and I don't know what that would be in that application. So
I'm so sorry. I know, if you want to get close as you can to city code, there's 20-foot front setback, so it'd be 20-foot in each direction if you wanted to cut that. There'd be plenty of site.
You would say the first point of deviation has to be 20 foot back?
So we are, in front setbacks, you have to have 4-foot chain link or 3-foot cedar up to 20 feet back on your front setback. I do have a little leeway on making terminations depending on certain situations like this. If you can park a car there and you completely see down the road, I'm totally good with it. Cars can see you coming, and they can see and vice versa. So that's a case-by-case basis. So it'd be a site visit going out there. Just saying like this would be enough if you did this far back. Could be 10 feet, could be 20 feet. But off the top of my head, division triangle, I would call it 20 feet each way.
In my instance, I acted on information I was given over the phone, and I found out that information should not have been given to me that way. In your case, you followed the process and you followed the procedure to us. And I really want to try to accommodate you, but I've also got to keep in mind that the next people who come along may or may not, and the development, as fast as towns start to grow, we don't know what the development is going to be in the future. I want to try to find a compromise that works for both us and for you. And the closest one I see right now appears to be going out and taking the minimum amount of setback necessary to ensure the vision triangle, not only for now, but for the decades to come. So if you would be agreeable to that, we could look at having that, at least go out and have that piece done, see what it would take to make that work. And then perhaps come back to us and say, this is something I'd be willing to do in order to make the rest of it happen.
Councilwoman Workman?
100% agree.
So
I understand where you're coming from, and I just thought I had crossed all my T's and all my I's and taking the picture and then showing that you could see down the street. People could see the front of the cart when they're walking on the sidewalk.
And in fact, in my case, I had 3 council members come out to my house when I wasn't there and actually drive up in my driveway and then check backing out, because that was the initial concern. And they said,
I had the mayor come to my house.
I didn't know the mayor back then.
I thought he was in control.
So, I
told you, you gotta do
it. He's not.
Council Sanders.
But him and Hank came out, and they're very nice gentlemen. Thank you very much.
I move we table this item until such time as city staff can work with Ms. Barker on a potential compromise and establishment of a vision triangle with minimum setbacks necessary for a safe fence installation, and come back with us at that time for a request for variance.
Second.
Quick. There's been a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. Councilman McCarthy? Aye. Councilman Sanders?
Aye.
Councilwoman Workla?
Aye.
Councilman Arjo? Aye. Thanks, Cheryl.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, we're gonna run down to Mr. Dale King. You got 30 seconds. Dale, come on down, buddy.
I had to hardly introduce myself.
Remember I told you about single overriding communication objectives. Here's the application.
You join on the meeting?
I'd like to try to test it off and see how close we can get. Because the variance.
Share my screen.
Yeah, I have brought you onto the.
Thank you, Councilman Arjo. I didn't do that.
Is your camera on? You've been on there the whole
I've
time.
been watching.
Nope, I watched it. Yeah, but I didn't know he was on screen either. I would have warned him.
Hey, Decker, this is why I turned my camera off.
Because I sent Paul a picture of his nose and said, take your face off.
All right, Dale, rock and roll.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, pleasure to be here, and residents of Mountain Home. My name is Dale King. I'm Director of Economic Development for the City of Mountain Home. And there was a question recently about the impact on recruiting industry and growing industry in the city, and with concerns of wastewater, if I remember correctly. So I was watching from afar that night and tried to capture a little bit of that. This might be the beginning of a conversation around it, but I wanted to get it started. And there's a lot of data out there to try to compile. I'm not an economist. I want to say that right now. I'm not an economist. But I am an economic developer, and I'm very passionate about this. And by the way, since I've got the microphone, I only have 3 minutes, I better say right up front. I've been very excited these last 8 months to see the reputation of the city as I go out into the community and talk about it, and even go more broad in the Pacific Northwest. And so I'm proud to be here and very happy to be a part of this.
Yeah, you got more time, just give me a hard time.
No, I know. Seriously, I could hardly introduce myself. Very second. So I want to start with kind of a broad sweep about the economic development and the RFI process. Request for information, something that is as old as time, so to speak. Requests for information are really businesses coming to the city, not actually to the city directly, typically to the state or to the Boise Valley Economic Partnership. And so the Boise Valley Economic Partnership is a Treasure Valley partnership. It actually stretches primarily Canyon and Ada counties, but I consider us the bookend of that county, along with Caldwell, the other end. So I wanted to just show some data that they've got, because they have empirical evidence about what things that are happening with economic development and the request for information. And so starting on the left, I want to bring attention to the numbers 41, 16, and 4. And this is data back from 2025. And so that RFI, request for information process, comes in with leads. So they're processing leads or inquiries to the state from businesses that want to move to our state. And so in 2025, they registered about 41. So this is for the valley. This is the entire state, but this is our region. Okay. And so site visits for the region was 16, and announced project wins was 4. Okay. So I want to bring attention to those numbers. That's 10% of the project leads that come in. So in some sales scenario, that's really good. Other sales scenario, it's not very good. And so I just want to bring attention to that, because when RFI comes in, request for information comes in economic development, there's like 2,600 other communities in the United States that are competing with us. So economic development is kind of a tough bracket. It's kind of a tough game. And so, so it's very competitive. And some states have war chests to recruit and throw money at companies, and others have less. And so we try our best with tax incentives and different things and having great communities. I want to mention on the right-hand side there, you see the yellow box, the wins. Those are the 4 companies. And if you tally up the FTE, full-time equivalent employees, it comes to a little less than 700 employees in the initial moving of the company to the region. So when you go down to the bottom right, where it says 5-year impact, those 700 jobs grow to 5,851 is the speculation based on numbers from the companies and such. So I want to bring attention to that, because our long-term planning, we've got to be on it. So if I'm talking to a company that's talking about 100 employees, they could be talking about 1,000 employees in 5 to 10 years. And with some of the things that are going on in aerospace, and I'll touch more on aerospace, aerospace manufacturing is doubling in the next 10 years. Which is a massive, aerospace is a massive industry for our region, especially with Boeing next door, at least I consider it next door. And so those are things to think about if we're talking about infrastructure, industrial lands, and all of those those things that are taken into consideration, our schools, so on. When you look at industry sectors, just below the yellow box, I'm sorry I'm not consistent throughout your presentation with my colors here, but the manufacturing is 53%. I'm going to touch more on the manufacturing, why manufacturing versus going out and getting a Burger King or something. And so, and again, I'm not going to pay a lot of attention to the data on the left side, but right in the middle there is the trend of total RFIs. So those RFIs are leads and inquiries to our state of businesses that are considering moving here. Now understand, not all of them move here and not all of them move. And so those are just leads. So it's not a direct correlation to landing anywhere. So we can totally focus. But I want to bring attention to the 5-year impact. Total jobs starting in the top right again, less than 700. Total jobs being 5,851. It's a growth. And that's the whole idea of business, right? It's going to grow. And so if we're looking at our infrastructure has to grow along with that. And I get ahead of myself on that slide. So this gives you a little bit more on the leads themselves, 23, 24, 2025, 24, 24, 2023. And when you look at the yellow side of the pie chart, it's primarily manufacturing, which is good for us, and I'll talk a bit more about that. But it's a lot of manufacturing that's on the move and it's on the grow in our country, especially with the Act, the Reshoring Act and the Reindustrialization Act movement, I should say. Why focus on industrial recruitment? I've got a stack of Post-its in my office of people that said, I want a Panda Express, et cetera, and different restaurants and such. I want a Panda Express too, and we'll work on that. But what I want to do is talk a bit about why industrial recruitment versus spending our energy on other things. Industrial recruitment brings new dollars in the community. It's a primary employer, and so when a primary employer goes out, let's take a dairy farmer here. A dairy farmer, they may sell it locally, but if Chobani is selling it around the world, they're actually a primary employer because they're bringing new dollars into our economy. And so, and those new dollars, typically, at least in manufacturing, are going to multiply 4 or 5 times. So if someone brings in $1 million into the local economy, it's going to multiply because they're going to spend it at other local services, spend it at Safeway, so on and so forth, and those people are going to spend it, and those people are going to spend it. And so, and those are new dollars, and not just the old dollars recycling. And so I feel that it's our priority is to make sure we have new dollars coming out of our community to strengthen our community. So primary employer impact, talk about that, above average wages, manufacturers are going to get higher wage jobs, and that's been a concern to me because I have kids, and I think high school students should have a place to go work. That's a potential career starter. And I'll talk a bit more about that. Tax-based expansion, we all want that. A single 200 job industrial is the bottom one. Single 200 job industrial employer at 70,000 average wage has 14 million in annual payroll. So think about it, 14 million in average payroll into the community. We're spending our money here. That money comes into our community directly. A single 200 job industrial employer, okay, sorry, and generating property tax, sales tax, utility revenue for the city. So what's the gap? Mountain Home has the workforce, the cost structure, and the location, but lacks infrastructure and site inventory to compete. And I'll get a little bit more into that later. Now, why advanced manufacturing? Lower water requirements. And so I love the fact that we're agriculture, but it's difficult with the water issues, especially this year. And so, unlike data centers or food processing, precision manufacturing uses minimal water, critical for mountain homes, water capacity constraints. So am I talking too fast? I feel like I'm talking really fast. Okay. So that also brings in higher wages, and so higher wages is what's going to build our downtown, right? Our shops, people that have disposable income that can spend locally, and then our services will grow. University pipeline, we're close enough and we're far enough away. I love where we live because we're not in the city. We're not in Boise. But we're close enough that for manufacturers, they want access to engineering services. They're going to have that base in the valley. And for that matter, we're not that far from Twin Falls. And so we're sitting in an incredible place to be really going after manufacturing because we have 2 manufacturing bases in our region, between Twin Falls and the Treasure Valley. And so Twin Falls is recognized nationally as a food manufacturing and processing center. Let me see. In airport proximity, we're nice and close. Manufacturers love to be able to get on a plane and go somewhere. Why aerospace manufacturing? Because it's doubling in size, and I've been in the industry, I understand the value of it. But one of the things that I really love about aerospace manufacturing is the fact that they love working with young people. And in time we can talk a bit more about the apprenticeship programs some of these companies have for high schools, where young people can come out and not just learn a metal cutting skill, but they can learn materials, basic cutting edge materials. But then also, it's aerospace is still a craft. There's things that robots, they haven't figured out how to have the robots do yet. And they're still learning about avionics, believe it or not. And but anyways, my experience has been with aerospace CEOs is like they want to train their own because they don't want to train the bad habits out of people. And so, but we also have transferable skills with their F-15 maintenance technicians, avionics, logistics personnel, et cetera, that have direct application to aerospace manufacturing, defense electronics, et cetera. So, and also for maintenance repair operations for companies that are on the East Coast that don't have a Western presence yet. Mountain Home is the perfect place for them. Let me see. Because so many of our technicians on the base and so many I've met here in town, they have essentially, with really quick study, can have their A&P certification, which is an airframe, and power plant certification, which is necessary for working on maintenance repair operations for planes. So we're really set up with a workforce that's key towards aviation. Now when I say aviation, I'm talking about planes that fly. When I'm saying aerospace, I'm talking about planes that are being built. So it's the manufacturing side. You see. We also have in our opportunity zone, that's another term, but in our opportunity is the Idaho energy commercialization. And so there's a whole movement for commercialization of energy. Those are transferable skills with aerospace. And that's another thing I've been talking to different leaders about is the fact that we need to be considering Mountain Home as a place for final manufacturing and assembly of energy and so on and so forth. So, and again, we're close to the universities. And then defense contractor proximity. What's interesting is that the same aerospace, the same space that our Air Force base flies, that they do their training, is the same space that Lockheed uses from Mojave Desert. They access the same space, and they put in time and schedule it, and they use the same. Why not come to Mountain Home? Why not be based on Mountain Home and save yourself some tax dollars rather than other states? Again, down the bottom right, what's very interesting is the military occupation concentration. We're 20x national average, our military numbers. So these were some of the aerospace that were in the pipeline, things that we had looked at. 35, 200 to 400 jobs, 250 jobs. Again, their investment is usually in the millions, tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions, and you can see the bottom of there is up to the billion. The pipeline since I've been here has been about 19 RFQs. So I started with BVEP and Boise Valley kind of partnership to show you kind of paint that picture of the region that we're in, to see the activity and the busyness. This office has been responding to RFIs for years and has quite a few site visits. I'm just going to do my own anecdotal information from when I've been here, since I wasn't there yet. And we can dig into that if people really want to know that information. I'm hoping to be able to answer these questions with my experience. Business, there's 6 companies that we've submitted to. Businesses decline. Basically, our land prices are too high. And one after further information, we withdrew the submission just because of wastewater. And so of the 13, so we started with 19. Let's go with the number 4. The number 4 are the 4 that we weren't even considered for. Not because there's anything wrong with Mountain Home, it's just they had a preference and a deference for another community, and they're asking specifically for that. The businesses were. 2 we're still working on, but the 13 that had no submission is because right out of the gate, wastewater, airport, infrastructure, buildings, or pollutants that those companies would have had in our community as quality of life issues.
Hey Dale, your numbers are different on there.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I was like sitting there and I was realizing I wasn't making sense. Sorry, I had a couple hours to go through my slides. And I was realizing my numbers didn't make sense. They didn't add up. So I'll send you the update on this. I apologize.
So,
go ahead, sir.
Dale, just for clarification, so I know different numbers here, but so 6 submitted and the businesses declined to pursue because of land price, but one of the 6 was withdrawn due to wastewater?
Yeah, I pulled it back after further information.
Okay, because this says 4 and then it says wastewater.
Right, I'm sorry.
Nope,
Yeah, no,
sure.
I should have brought it to your attention that I was back with editing. So, any other questions on that?
I have questions on something, but not that one.
Want to go back?
It's up to you.
Yeah.
I don't want to interrupt your presentation if you want to finish it first.
Okay, I'll just keep rolling then.
Okay.
On the next page, essentially, those are the 19, and essentially there's quite a bit of manufacturing and industrial that would be good for our community. If we had the infrastructure, if we had the wastewater. One thing I want to bring up too, I'll get to that a little bit more here, get ahead of myself. One case study, we did do a site visit since I've been here. I thought I was able to learn quite a bit from that. I just want to say hats off to the team here, the staff. We're really stellar. And I felt like we really were able to do really a professional presentation to this company that expects a professional presentation. Everybody on the staff was really excellent and rose to the occasion. Let's see. Okay, out of the 6 that we've actually submitted for, 1 we actually got not only a site visit or site visit call, but we actually, essentially what that is, hey, listen, you're 1 of 5. And we'll let you know in a couple months or a month if you're 1 of 3. And if you're 1 of 3, you'll have a site visit. And so we found out we were going to have a site visit. We did the site visit in February.
Come out and resurvey and redo and start from the ground up.
They're going to have to do some of it environmentally anyways, and that is the intention. So the intention and Chris, jump in. I'm not even got mic on. This is to do discovery so that we can go out for some of the grant funding available specific for rail rehabilitation. And so that would be our end goal and trying to get off the ground in this. We know there was some kind of creek that went through there that they thought they had a.
So without saying I have a definitive response for you, I'll say at this point, based on the information I have, position of the moon, all those things, I am favorably inclined with staff proceeding.
Let's use this in action.
So
No.
and forgive me, Mayor and Council. Before I made an action item, we have 2 new bodies, and we didn't know where we were sitting. It's another task order with Keller and Associates, and so and it wasn't allocated. And so I wanted to kind of know if you want me to go back, I have a good idea where I can pull it from in admin. There's a facility study. The growth to the community is priority, and I'm good with that. And so if that's the direction you want, I will bring a memo and everything back to vote next time. And then you can decide yes or table it.
Yes, please. I would like for you to put it on as an action item. Give us a couple weeks to gather information, and then we'll vote next meeting.
Okay. Anything, council? Danger.
Oh my gosh. What?
Sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry, guys. I didn't hear anything, so I was like, it's 8:30. Don't stop the feed. Keep going. Yeah.
Don't worry. You have until 9 o'clock, and then it's going to shut us off.
Well, that being said.
Councilor Marjorie, go ahead.
Mayor,
I got it.
2 small quick things. Reminder for the community that food distribution is April 23rd at Optimist Park. That is free to the public and open to all. And then just based on one of our consent agenda items, item 20, I would really like to see at some point if we could choose an appropriate meeting that might benefit both the city youth council and the city council itself, to bring them in for introductions and
and have them sit in for a meeting. I think it would be beneficial for both sides.
Mayor.
Councilman Worklow.
So every meeting they assign a member to attend. And I'm not sure if there was one this meeting, but for the last several ones, I've seen at least one member in attendance. And then they go back and they report their findings. If they can't make it in person, then I think they do watch it online. But they do meet, I think, every first and third Fridays at the library, if any wants to.
Councilman McCarthy.
Yes, just wanted an update, Mayor, on DIFAC applications. We received some person on that, where we're at, and timeline for bringing possible appointments to this body.
Yep, sent that to you in email today, I believe.
Right, just trying to bring awareness for the council, trying to figure out what timeline is.
I sent it all to the council.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Is this the next meeting, probably?
Most likely.
And then, just to bring it up, I know we had talked in the past, it was brought up about a town hall for joint. I haven't seen anything yet. Is that still something that we've been talking about, or?
I'm still agreeable to it if conditions can be coordinated.
That was.
Yeah, that's what it's.
I just haven't seen anything with coordination stuff. I know just got in the weeds, so.
But council's got it, Mike. Yeah, he's got it, Mike.
Thanks.
All right. You adjourned.
I'm gonna break.